Hey everybody, welcome back. Sora has finally launched today, and there's been leaks and rumors and things like that about Sora that have been unaddressed, and mainly because it's been an alpha and it's been very secretive. And now that it's out, I figured it's worth talking about, especially the recent leaks. And I feel like it's worth talking about how, at least in my impression, the Sora program has been. But first, let's kind of look at the leak that we had, that kind of had a bit of a negative take on the Sora program. Now, I did cover this a little bit in another video about AI as a craft, which I highly recommend checking out. But yeah, I'd love to just dive really deep into this in particular and talk about, the creator program and other creator programs that I'm in, and how they're being run, and how I really think that they're really actually quite cool. So definitely I am very biased, so take that with a big grain of salt. But in any case, let's really jump into it. So basically, there's this letter that's on Hugging Face, calling, Sora a PR puppet and calling them corporate AI overlords. So it's pretty negative. And it's signed by a group of Sora alpha artists, apparently, about a dozen of them. Now, it's worth noting that the program has over 300, even they stayed here over 300. I think it might be nearer to 400 now. But, I was one of the people in that program. And, first of all, it was a huge privilege and honor. Also, and I might have been chosen because, hey, look, most of the people, at least that I've seen in the program, are very serious digital artists. They have been tinkering a lot with other tools. And so they are really, a group of people who really were willing to try things out for the first time and tinker. And being in that program is really, really cool. And I guess these folks here, maybe they came in with preconceived notions about what AI is, or, maybe they just didn't feel like Sora was doing what they felt was good for them. I don't know. I don't know them personally. I don't know any of these folks, but I'm very curious. I'd love to talk to them. I'm very curious kind of what their impression of the program was and how much they actually, interacted with the actual program, Sora, or not. But in either case, as they stayed here, they're not wrong. We did get free and unlimited access to the tool. Sometimes the tool did go down when they were fixing bugs, but in general, we got to play with the tool, which essentially looks like this. And it's a pretty complex tool, in my opinion. You can do a lot of things that other tools can also do, but, you can also change aspect ratio. You can change the resolution level. You can change the duration, which most tools don't have above 5 seconds. This goes all the way to 20 seconds, which is unique. And then you can also change how many variations you get, as well as there's like this storyboarding feature, which is here, which is a very different feature that you wouldn't see in other programs. There's also like a remixing tool here, and I'll go into this in detail in another video, but you can go into here, you can do remix, blend, loop, and all this other kind of stuff. So I don't know if those folks and these folks here actually played with the tool and kind of got a lot out of it, or they prompted a few times and kind of gave up. So that remains to be seen, and I would love for them to come out and talk about what their experience actually was beyond just signing this letter here. It's definitely ideological to me, right? They have a clear a shtick about it being proprietary versus open source, and they have this whole thing about free bug testers, peer puppets. Now let's go one by one through all these issues. So they received Sora Access, as we mentioned. They are stating here that artists are not your unpaid R&D. We are not free bug testers, peer puppets, training data validation tokens. Now, first of all, we'll say it's an honor and a privilege to be able to be in these early access programs in general. Secondly, this is common practice. I've been in tech for the last 20 years. Being a bug tester is sometimes just a luck of the draw, or who like I was an early user of Clubhouse, one of the first 5,000, 6,000 users. That was in 2020. And, that was just because I knew somebody who knew somebody. And it was like, it's just within the circle of people that knew the founders, and they are just doling it out to their friends, and their friends are doling it out to their friends. And it's not necessarily, I don't think, a kind of like an effort to blackball anybody. It's more like, hey, I have a trusted group of friends and I want to share this tool that I'm making, or this app, or this platform that I'm making, with people that I know, that I trust. Same thing happened with medium.com, if folks remember, right? Medium.com only started out with a shared circle of people. Most apps did, if I remember correctly, maybe even it's very possible that even YouTube, all these programs have had early access for certain groups of people in the very beginning before like a public rollout access, right? That's how this works, because otherwise, one, like these companies, it's hard to pay, a potential bug tester or an artist to use their platform. Like, this is kind of a hard thing to really pull off, and there's a lot of reasons for this, and it gets complicated, but suffice it to say that this is a common practice, right? Secondly, PR Puppet, I'm not sure to what extent that is true. I mean, I think Shy Kids, Paul Trillo, and a few others who got access to Sora early and published their works with the Sora program, they probably benefited a lot from that, probably got a lot of contracts out of that because they're early to this tool. And secondly, there's an element here where they're just trying to tease their model, which again is what everybody kind of just does, right? I mean, let's look at, let's say, DeepMind Genie 2, right? You have this scenario where, hey, they're releasing stuff that they're creating with potential creators or internally to their program. They're showcasing how the program works. Sorry, it's loading a little slowly, but like they're showcasing how it works internally and externally. We even look at Meta Movie Gen. This is Meta's, Facebook, big company. And, one of the complaints here in this thing was that this is a $150 billion value company. I mean, Meta is a $1 trillion company, right? Google as well. They also have a creator program. I'm not in this program, but they have a creator program where they're working with creators to showcase what is possible and to learn from them what works or what does not work. So I think the point here is that this is common practice. So I'm not sure if I quite buy that this is a very good critique of the creator program. And in addition to this, if you check out my other video about all the different players who are funded in the space, they're all multi-billion-dollar companies to some extent, right? And also, they also have creator programs that are very similar to Sora. Now, I will speak directly to Sora in a second, but and here they're also saying here, the denormalized billion-dollar brands exploiting artists for unpaid and R&D and PR. I mean, I get the sentiment here, and I'm with them as an artist, as a creative myself, especially in respect to the fact that creativity and artists are like, they are having, it's not easy to make money on platforms in general. I don't think this is an AI issue, or maybe even a billion-dollar company issue. Might be the nature of these industries in general. I'm not sure how that's solved, right? Spotify unlocked the ability for a lot of people to potentially become musicians and make money from music. At the same time, it made it so competitive that it's only the top 10% are making a lot of money off of Spotify, right? Lily Allen, for example, making more money on OnlyFans than on Spotify. So there's something broken fundamentally in the industries, not just industry. But I don't know that this is something that OpenAI is necessarily designed to solve or wants to solve or can solve even. So that's kind of my pushback against this, even though I agree from a progressive economics point of view. And then art washing detected. So we are releasing this to give everyone an opportunity to experiment with what the 300 artists were offered. So I don't think that they actually achieved this. If you click on here, you can generate with Sora here, and literally it's just like a model where you can prompt Sora and like get maybe like the resolution difference and generate video and generate the prompt, but that's about it. Like, frankly, this might even underline to what extent they did not understand what was happening at Sora or did not actually play with it. Because once you get in here, as you can see, I can go in here and yes, I prompted this, for example, Coca-Cola trucks going into Snowy Mountain Village. If I click on recut, which does not happen in this example here, very, very clearly, I can now change this. I can use this, first 1 second here as a reference. Then I can click on here and say, bear, let's say bear emerges from forest. Okay. And I can click on create from here. And now I've used this storyboard feature, which again does not exist here. So either these artists do not quite understand how product works and creating a tool works, or did not really play with the tool. And I'll show you the result in a second. It takes a few minutes, but it's generating there. But so this is kind of my complaint here as well about this letter here. Um, um, they're not against the use of AI technology, so as a tool for the arts, so that's good. We are aligned ideologically there. If we were, we probably wouldn't have been invited to this program. Fair. What we don't agree with is how this artist program has been rolled out. Again, this artist program is very similar to a lot of other creative programs that I'm in, and I have to say that the Sora program, all the other creative programs I'm in are really awesome, and they've done a really great job of sharing and letting people in. But this program has been led by really great people who are really kind and compassionate and have been trying their best to do things like weekly calls or been very available to the artist and sharing what they are learning and sharing everything. So I don't quite understand what they don't agree with, and they don't seem to quite say in particular what they don't agree with about the program. So worth thinking about there. And how the tool is shaping up ahead of possible public release. So what does this really mean here? How the tool is shaping up ahead of possible public release? What does that really mean? How is the tool shaping that they don't like? Do they not like the storyboard? Do they not like the variations here, the resolution? What is it actually? So it's a kind of a blanket statement that they made here. Unless this is about the open source thing, which we'll get to. We are sharing this to the world in the hopes that OpenAI becomes more open and more artist friendly and supports the arts beyond PR stunts. Well, guess what? It's released today, so we'll see how that plays out. I think that they are probably going to be pretty open, but at the same time, they are an organization that reserves their right to be able to keep things the way that they want to do it in the process of doing product and doing engineering, etc. They're also competing against a litany of companies in China and in America who are also competing for the same kind of, the same kahuna of video generation, right? And let's see how this generated and if the bear came out. Oh, see, there you go. So the bear jumped out, not in the snowy mountains, unfortunately, but it did come out here in this moment right there. But in any case, you get the idea here that it is allowing you to use storyboard as a prompt, and that's not here in their little generate with Sora system here. That they just extracted the video generation model. They didn't actually, show you what Sora actually is and does. Okay, so they go on to say, we call on artists to make use of tools beyond the proprietary. Fair. And open source, I have been an open source user for many years. My father as well. I learned about open source through my dad when I was a kid. So I have been a proponent of FOSS for a very long time. FOSS, that's free open source software initiative. And a big fan of, I think his name is George Stallman or whatever. I forget his name now. And Linus Torvalds, all these big figures in open source that have shaped that industry. And I'm a big user of Ubuntu in particular. I used Ubuntu for a decade. And so I love the open source movement, and I think it's foundational for software. I think it is very important for AI in particular. I think that in general, I think open source should just be a thing that is true across all industries: fashion, code, art, everything. I think it's in the benefit of humanity. I mean, I was really inspired. I know Elon Musk is kind of in a weird spot right now politically, and we can view him in many different ways, but he open sourced a lot of the patents for electric vehicles, right? Over a decade ago, I believe. Like that, I think is important stuff, and I think we should be doing that more, in my opinion. That being said, I'm not sure that I totally agree that open source is the way to win in AI necessarily. I think definitely there are areas of AI that open source is way ahead of the closed models, right? I get that, and I think that that's important, and that's happening. And we see that with like Tencent releasing Hunyuan and all the other things like that. At the same time, the reality is that making AI is expensive. I mean, the video that I talked about where the money is, I mean, that's a reality, is that it takes a lot of money to make open source or to make AI models, right? Just AI models in general, right? Even open source models, they need money to be able to train their models on GPUs, on training data. Like it costs, like $20,000 to $100,000 for a GPU. These are expensive machines, right? And if you want to assemble huge machines that can train these massive models for 100 million, 1 billion, whatever amount, that's a big thing. I mean, I showed it in my other video. Let me show you right now, just for the chart here. let's see who has the most chips, right? Look at this. The NVIDIA H100 GPUs, which are currently the market leaders in H100 or in GPUs, who owns the most? It's Meta, multi-trillion-dollar company, Microsoft, multi-trillion-dollar company, Google, which also has their own TPUs, so that's not graded in here. Amazon, multi-trillion-dollar company, Oracle, I think multi-billion, Tencent, multi-billion, multi-trillion. All these companies are huge companies. And Meta, by the way, is a major open source player, right? So, but also has the money and the wherewithal to be able to fund this kind of stuff. So this is where I push back on this. Like I not necessarily ideologically am I pushing back, but in terms of execution, I think closed models do have this massive advantage, right? So I think these are the things that are worth thinking about when we think about this particular this letter here. I think I get them ideologically. I totally understand that there is this pushback against AI in general. There is a pushback against how it's being done, how it's being rolled out, and all the nuances of that, etc. But there's a lot of caveats here that I've just mentioned as to why I think maybe, hey, like this letter has a lot of things that are warranted worth saying, but also I think they're missing a lot as well. And I'm not sure the kind of negativity of the letter itself, where they're even putting the finger here in the letter, is warranted. And I push back a lot against some of the claims here, which are very, very vague. So I'm curious what you guys think about this. Obviously, I'm biased. I was in the Sora program. I've been playing around with Sora for the last few months, as well as other programs, to be fair. Like I'm in quite a few other creator programs playing around with those tools. Didn't see any pushback from those tools or to those tools. I wonder if it's because, hey, look, OpenAI has this big kahuna, and so it's worth going after the big dog. I get it, punching up. But also caveats, right? So would love to hear what everybody else has to say. Point out everything that I got wrong, please. Welcome the discussion. And yeah, see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.